We're just a few days away from Dolphins versus Seahawks in NFL Week 3, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are going to be live on Sunday, breaking down the game live, play-by-play commentary analysis, partying, and I think we're going to get the upset, so subscribe and join us on Sunday. The Dolphins might get great news for their NFL Week 3 game against the Seattle Seahawks on the injury front on their own team, but as well as the Seattle Seahawks, because the Seahawks injury report on Wednesday featured a lot of players, and there are 9 people listed as DNPs on their initial injury report on Wednesday, which is honestly pretty chaotic. And obviously, we will never root for injuries or anything like that, but we just have to get dealt the cards that we get dealt. And unfortunately for Seattle, they have a lot of key players on the DNP list. Kenneth Walker III, who's their number 1 running back. DK Metcalf with a hand injury. Leonard Williams with a knee injury. Our good pal Jerome Baker with a hamstring injury. And then you also got some key defensive players in Boye Mafe, Uchenna Nwosu, Kayvon Wallace. Brady Russell, maybe not that important of a player, but the other 7 on here, and I said there was 9, it's because there was one, Laken Tomlinson, who was actually just rest day like Calais Campbell for Miami, so that's really not that concerning me. But when you think of the massive injury report for Seattle that features a ton of key players, a ton of starters, it is shocking to see how injured they actually are. And that didn't even mention the people that were limited in practice, because if you're limited on Wednesday, there's probably a decent chance you're going to be able to play on Sunday, but DNP, that's a different story, and they racked it up. And the Dolphins injury report, which we'll get to at the end of today's video, actually was quite the surprise in terms of it being shorter than its opponent. It simply just has not been that way for Miami over the past couple weeks to start the season, and especially last year as well. Well, let's talk about how some of these injuries might impact this game on Sunday, because Kenneth Walker III, he was their RB1. He did not play in Week 2 against the New England Patriots, but in Week 1 against the Denver Broncos, he was phenomenal. 20 carries, 100 yards, a score. I don't expect him to play. He has that oblique injury, and it sounds like he isn't going to be able to go for Week 3, and this injury is a little bit more serious than we would think. Could potentially be out this week, but also the following week as well. Oblique injuries are tough, especially as a running back. You're going to get hit in that little side area quite a bit. So what does that mean for Miami? Well, get ready to learn Zach Charbonnet if you're the Dolphins defense, who was a former second-round pick from a couple NFL drafts ago out of UCLA, and he's been second fiddle to Kenneth Walker over the past year and a half, but now is starting to get that featured role with him out. And Charbonnet has been an interesting player, to say the least, at least through 2 weeks of the season, because he has not been efficient on the ground. You see his numbers. He's averaging 2.3 yards per carry through 2 weeks. Not great. He does have a score in each of the first 2 games for Seattle, but he has been used more in the passing game than on the running game. And that's just an overall arching theme of Zach Charbonnet and the Seahawks team. They ran the ball decently okay against the Denver Broncos, but they did run it a lot, right? You saw 8 carries for Charbonnet for 12 yards. Walker ran it 20 times and had over 100, so he averaged 5 yards per carry. But as a team, they were closer to that low 4s range in terms of yards per carry, which is really good for Miami because, well, they have struggled against the run early on in the season. Travis Etienne ran well against them, so did Tank Bigsby, and we know what James Cook did to that Dolphins defense in Week 2. So if that run game for Seattle isn't there, 1, because they're on their backup running back, or 2, just not that good in general, that bodes well for Miami in terms of not having to worry about the run game as much and really just focusing on limiting Geno Smith, potentially DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then Tyler Lockett. We are going to get to more injury news in this game, but I want to get your predictions down in the comments section. Who you got? Type MIA for the Dolphins, SEA for the Seahawks. Let me know your thoughts down below. You might get hit with a YouTube ad break. If you do, scroll down, let it play, and answer today's question. The secondary will need to be ready in today's Week 3 matchup, if you will, because with the running game not being where it should be for Seattle, they're going to air it out. And if you watched any of the Seahawks game in Week 2 against the New England Patriots, they threw that thing a ton. And they were very efficient in doing so. Both DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba eclipsed over 100 yards against the Patriots secondary that's actually pretty solid with Jonathan Jones, Christian Gonzalez, Jabril Peppers, Kyle Duggar, and also Marcus Jones. And Metcalf, who was a DNP on Wednesday's injury report with a hand injury. I do expect him to play because that was a surprise appearance for Metcalf on the injury report, and it could just be one thing where maybe he does have a hand injury, but they're just trying to play it a little bit easier. I do think he is going to play in this game, and Jalen Ramsey and Kendall Fuller are going to have their hands full because he is a physical, big-bodied wide receiver with blazing speed that could beat you over the top, beat you in contested catch rates, and you're going to need your two boundary corners to step up because Metcalf didn't have the best game against Patrick Surtain in week 1, but was able to go for over 100 yards and a score against New England in week 2. But specifically, when we speak on the secondary for the Miami Dolphins, this is going to have to be a Kader Kohou game. Why, you might ask? Well, he is the specific nickel corner for the Miami Dolphins. And when you look at the alignments for the Seahawks offense and how they do in the passing game, it is Metcalf on the outside, primarily Tyler Lockett also, and then Jackson Smith-Njigba in the slot, which means he's going to be matched up against Kader Kohou. And Smith-Njigba could be having his breakout season after being a first-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. He had a little bit of a quiet first game against Denver, as really the entire passing game did for the Seahawks. They woke up against New England, and Jackson Smith-Njigba tortured the Patriots last week, having double-digit catches, over 100 yards. Has yet to find pay dirt this season, but he was dominant against New England in week 2. So Kader Kohou is going to have his handfuls with a talented route runner in Jackson Smith-Njigba. More to come here in just a second, but we are sponsored by Game Time, the #1 ticketing app out there. And if you want to go see the Dolphins play in person or any event in your local area live, Game Time is the spot to do it. And they're offering a really cool deal for all of you. But they just have the best features that make purchasing tickets so easy. And I am all in on easy. And their new feature called Game Time Picks makes it super, super easy. It allows you to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Seat views when you're in the app. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy so you know exactly where you're sitting in your venue. Like I said, it could be a comedy show, could be a concert, could be a sporting event. Doesn't matter. They will always show where you're going to be sitting. They also have the lowest price guaranteed. If you find a ticket cheaper on a different service in the same exact spot, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. They make your life so much easier. And when I went to LSU USC about 3 weeks ago to catch some college football in week 1 in Las Vegas, I used Game Time, and so did the rest of the crew that we went with at Chat Sports, because Game Time is the absolute best. And they got a great deal for you and all the real ones at Dolphins today. Download the app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, as we shift over to some more talk, and we talked a lot about how the injuries impact Seattle's offense against Miami. But how about with the defense? Because with these three guys specifically, Jerome Baker, Leonard Williams, Uchenna Nwosu, those are key players for the Seattle Seahawks. And there's a lot of injuries to this team, but this defense and trio is huge. We know what Jerome Baker can do on the football field because we've seen him do it in a Miami Dolphins uniform. Uchenna Nwosu is also one of their best pass rushers, but Leonard Williams is the game changer here because he can get after the quarterback. He can stop you in the run game. And if he misses this game, that is a massive advantage for the Miami Dolphins. It will allow them to run the ball easier. It will allow them to protect Skylar Thompson easier. And that is the biggest key for this Dolphins team, is giving Skylar Thompson an ample amount of time to decide where to go with the football and find his playmakers in Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. But also, if Leonard Williams is out, that takes away that elite combo in the middle of their defensive line of rookie Byron Murphy, who has been great through 2 weeks, and then Leonard Williams, which will allow this man right here, Devon Achane, to really get going. He's been the engine of this Dolphins offense through 2 weeks, having 100 total yards in week 1 with a score, having more than 150 yards in week 2 all scrimmage and a touchdown again. He is third in the NFL in scrimmage yards through 2 weeks of the season. only trailing J.K. Dobbins and Alvin Kamara. He has been one of the top backs in football to begin this season, and the Dolphins offense will have to rely on him once again this Sunday, and it could be an easier life for Achane to find those gaps on the outside, on the inside, in this zone scheme that Mike McDaniel has running the football. If Leonard Williams is out, that's huge for this Dolphins offense. It could be easier for them to move the football. Who is your Dolphins X factor for week 3? Maybe it's Skylar Thompson, because we don't know what we're going to see from the third-year, seventh-round pick out of Kansas State. But either way, let me know who your X factor is. I think Achane's going to have a big game for Miami if they want to move the ball offensively. We do have to kick it over to the Dolphins side of the injury report, because outside of them getting good news with Seattle, I think they actually got some good news themselves. Calais Campbell and Terron Armstead were the only 2 DNPs on the injury report on Wednesday. Campbell getting his augmented rest as a veteran. Armstead's dealing with that shoulder injury, but Mike McDaniel said he's optimistic about his chances on Sunday and that he's just day-to-day. Other injuries to note, Grant DeBose popped up, limited. Robert Jones dealing with a shoulder injury, limited. Obviously the starting left guard for Miami. Raheem Mostert returned to practice as a limited participant with that chest injury. Jalen Phillips is limited because I think that Achilles is still kind of keeping him a little bit, I guess, cautious in terms of how full he can go. But here's another one. Malik Washington, who has yet to make his Dolphins debut, the 6th-round pick from Virginia, has been out the first 2 games. Limited. He could be seeing his debut this Sunday against Seattle. But when you're talking about Miami, the only real concern on the entire list is Terron Armstead. If Mostert misses, it's not the biggest deal because of how well Achane's been playing, right? And we've already been without Grant DeBose because he does nothing. And we've already been without Malik Washington. So it's not like any of these guys would really be game changers for Miami outside of Terron Armstead, because then you'd have to play Kendall Lamb or Patrick Paul at left tackle. I am really going to hope that Armstead is going to be able to go for Miami on Sunday, because they need to protect Skylar Thompson's blind side the best way they can. And with both technically starting left tackle and left guards on the injury report, it could be a concern. I don't really know if it's that big of a deal if Robert Jones misses time. He's been the worst player on the offensive line for Miami so far. He got bullied against Ed Oliver in Buffalo in week 2, but Armstead does need to play because they need to protect Skylar Thompson blindside, and I don't really want to leave it up to rookie Patrick Paul making his debut in the NFL or Kendall Lamb, because he looked pretty bad against Buffalo as well. That'll do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because we are going to break down everything leading up to this matchup over the next 2 or 3 days. But we'll also be live an hour before kickoff. 3:05 Eastern Time is when we'll be live. Join us. You see this thumbnail, click on it, because we're going to have a lot of fun this Sunday breaking down the game and hopefully seeing the Dolphins win.